Well, one of the issues that's occurred, of course, is there's been a lot of economists writing about the decline of the U.S. and that its best days are past it and all the rest of that. There are arguments to support that, and there are arguments that don't. One of the issues that do support it is that they've only had a very teeny tiny period of time, as you can see from this graph, when they had enough money to put into the piggy bank, and that's long gone. And they've been in deficit for many years before, and they've got deficits as far into the future as you can see. In addition to that, because of the cratering of housing prices in particular, and also to some degree the equity markets, net worth in the U.S. has declined by 150% of annual income, and that means that households, average households, are $100,000 poorer than they were before this recession started. So that's a chunk of money per household average. But on the other hand, the U.S. is unique in this regard. The U.S., it's hard to read all the numbers here, so it's not that important, but the U.S. taxes its citizens far less than any major developed country by a fairly big margin. And so they have the room. If they wanted to charge the tax rates that the French charge, for example, they wouldn't have a deficit at all. Now, mind you, the Americans are never going to do anything the French do, so that's probably not going to happen. And the other problem that the U.S. have is when you have Fox News and Sarah Palin and all of the other, bright lights that they have there, you're reluctant to pay taxes. So the latest thing that's occurred in the U.S. is they have developed something called the Tea Party. And the Tea Party had just had its own conference. I think it was in North Carolina, and they got together, and the biggest issue the Tea Party has is they're essentially tax protesters. It doesn't really matter what the tax is. They're there to protest it. The origins of the Tea Party go back to the American Revolution and the Boston Tea Party, of course, and that call where it says no taxation without representation. And that's a little picture of Benjamin Franklin in the front saying that I give it 200 years tops. And we're sort of 200 years into it, and it's interesting to see how things are developing. The way that the Tea Party today wants it is they don't want any taxation at all. They, of course, still want you to send Social Security checks or email them or do electronic funds transfer, whatever is most convenient. So the problem is, in the U.S., it's really hard to get traction on increasing taxes, even though you can't reduce the entitlements that people are getting. That system will break at some point in time. It's going to be interesting to see how it occurs. So one of the things I look at in the U.S., when I look at the pluses and the minuses, it reminds me of this quote from Mark Twain, who said, rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated. This is my sense of the opportunities in the U.S. First off, their debt to GDP levels are going up, but they're far less than Japan or Greece or Italy. They have very, very good demographics and a much younger population than virtually any other OECD country. They have creative destructionism. That's what Joseph Schumpeter would have called it, an Austrian economist. They have the easiest ability to self-correct the issues, especially their labor markets, of any of the developed countries. They are an attractive destination for immigrants. Obviously, we are as well. And interestingly, according to the QS World University rankings, 13 of the top universities in the world are in the U.S. And so the fact is that they are a long ways from being in my opinion, being in a long-term major decline. If you want to get a great article about this and you want us to email it to you, we'd be happy to. This was an article that appeared in Atlantic Magazine just the last 2 or 3 weeks ago.